Involve and Audeliss. We obviously have an incredible platform, some old friends up here, some new friends as well. We're going to start the panel in just 1 minute. If you just give us a second, we're going to be live streaming this. Very exciting. You're part of a worldwide thing. And so just give us 1 second. We're going to pause right before we start.
Can we start clapping?
You can do whatever. Ajay, as usual, you can do whatever you want. I mean, I can't control this man. No one can.
All right, here we go, Andy. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
5, 4, 3.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andy Serwer, Editor-in-Chief of Yahoo Finance, and we're delighted to be hosting this panel this morning with Involve and Audeliss about diversity and inclusion. We have got an awesome panel here that we'll get to in just 1 second. I just want to make sure that you guys understand that Yahoo Finance is very committed to this topic of diversity and inclusion in 2 ways. Number one, we cover it, and obviously it's become a core issue for companies and organizations around the world. It is table stakes. It is not a peripheral thing anymore. It is how to succeed in business and in terms of all your constituents, your employees, obviously your shareholders, and your customers. That's number one. And number two, we practice what we report. So we look to employ these practices at Yahoo Finance ourselves in terms of the talent that we have, and not only that, but also the way we cover the news. So we make sure that our sources and our guests reflect our diverse audience as well. We measure that, and obviously it's super, super important to how we work here and as part of Verizon. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Suki and start the panel. So please, welcome the panelists.
Morning, everyone, and hello to everyone online. I feel incredibly lucky to be moderating this panel of very influential business leaders today. I'm the founder and CEO for Audeliss and Involve, for those of you that don't know me. This has been probably about 12 months in the making to make this happen. So I know you all turn up and have a lovely breakfast, but a lot of work has gone in to make this happen today. So I'm really pleased that everyone is here, and Sally finally made it. So great that you're here. We panicked for 1 moment. We did panic. So we have lots of questions. We're probably going to have about 30 minutes of a conversation of certain topics we have here. And then I will be coming to you for questions and comments near the end. So do start thinking about those now if you can. So I'm going to launch straight in because I know we don't have much time. Ajay, I want to start with you. You believe that decency is critical to inclusion. I just would love to hear you give examples of how that's been executed in MasterCard and what it looks like.
That's the first question. That could be 30 minutes. So first of all, thanks for being here, and thank you for having us here. I've now understood that being a sponsor of this event comes with having to be on the panel. Right? Greg and I both looked at each other.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So this concept of decency, I was just talking to a few folks earlier. It started out as me trying to explain to employees in a town hall the idea of being humane and being constructive towards your colleagues and peers, and having a hand on the back, not on your face, so that they feel that it's a level playing field, but you're on their side. And it's a very hard way to explain it when you use so many words. And so somewhere along the line, I got into, IQ is what I used to have told was important when I was younger. And then somebody said EQ is really important. And we just coined the idea of DQ and said, it's your decency quotient. And that explains why people would want to come work with you, for you, with you, and be a colleague and a peer with you. That has got various ways of being implemented. It starts from everything to do with inclusion, not just by gender or orientation, but inclusion of thought. So I tell people I'm not interested. I look different from everybody else, so it's easy for me to say this. It's harder if you're a straight white guy to say this. That's the reality. But I can say it. And my view of saying it is, diversity is not the fact that I'm a friend of a lady, and therefore I respect that. Diversity is her background, her thinking, her experiences are different from mine. Yeah. The moment she's at the table with me, I benefit. That's real diversity.
I think in my excitement, I went straight into the first question. And what I forgot to do was get them all to introduce themselves.
Okay,
ladies and gentlemen, that is live streaming for you. I'm very sorry. So actually, I was supposed to start with you, but I'm going to start on this side, Greg, because they've all prepared their introduction in the briefings, and they've all prepared a funny fact or story about themselves, which we're going to share with you. So, Greg, I'm going to start with you.
And here I thought we were going to miss the funny fact. Fantastic.
Can I give a funny fact about her?
I think Sally should go first. It's all good. Listen, this DQ piece I do want to come back to, because in terms of sort of just the idea of intent versus sort of conduct and what it really means as an outcome, huge, Ajay. I'm Greg Case. I'm privileged to serve as the CEO of Aon and have for coming up on 15 years. Been absolutely terrific. And I promise you, if not for Suki, there would be no fun fact. I promise you. He asked, so I will try to comply. So a story. It's about a job that led to sort of a job where I had to wear a suit. So the last job where I didn't have to wear a suit every day was in high school. Summer jobs were pretty important in the Case family. I grew up in Kansas, which is an awesome place to grow up, for the record. For some of you, it's a state in the union. Want to make sure you're all aware of that. They farm a lot of wheat in Kansas, and one of my jobs, my last job, was I was cleaning out grain elevators. Now, these are big grain elevators. Think, size of a football field, 3 or 4 stories high, and you clean them out. It's all good. Then you fill them up with wheat, basically an entire football field full of wheat, 3 or 4 stories high. Thought that was pretty good so far. Then the last thing is you have to fumigate it. Like, oh, that's cool. It should be fine. You seal the entire thing, every vent, with plastic. Then there are 2 vents left, one at the top, 3 or 4 stories high at one end of the football field, and one open vent at the other end. And then they gave you a bag and said, reach inside and pull these pellets out. They'll activate when they hit the air. That's the pesticide. They start to hiss, run as fast as you can to the other side, get done and seal it up, and you're good to go. That's when I realized, Greg, probably got to do something else. Now, what I didn't realize, present company excluded, is running away from something that's trying to kill you was a wonderful lesson that was applied later in life when I dealt with some of the sell-side analysts. So it's really actually a really good thing. So Suki, that's only for you. Would never have happened anyplace else.
So the moral of that story is to make sure you pre-qualify any career choices that you make more thoroughly. Joy.
Sure. I'm Joy Gordon. I'm the CEO of Dress for Success Worldwide. We're an international nonprofit organization that started here in New York City 22 years ago, now in over 160 cities, 25 countries around the world. Fun fact about me that people who see me, who know me, don't even realize that every single weekend on Long Island, I'm a fisherwoman. I go out, I go on charter boats, and I'm usually the only woman on the boat. And I love it because the men on the boat underestimate how competitive I am on the boat. So they usually see me and go, oh, little lady, look at you. And I win the biggest fish pool on the boat. So that's what I do on weekends with my husband. And I started tournament fishing. So I'm off to the races. I think this might be a new career.
Fantastic. Sally.
I'm Sally Krawcheck. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Ellevest, which is an investing platform and planning platform for women. And I guess the fun fact about me is I spend my weekends, I am probably the #1 Tar Heel basketball fan on the planet, which is not only great because you get to love your Tar Heels, but more importantly, you get to really hate Duke. And what do they say to, yes, Julia, my Tar Heel friend, to hate Duke like this is to be happy forever. They're so easy to hate. Did you see last night again? Oh, good. The refs made a controversial call that went Duke's way again, enabling them to win. I mean, the guys are so easy to hate.
And RJ.
I can't top that. I could have given stories about her. You didn't let me do that. So I'm not going to give you a story about work because you're going to talk about work. I'll tell you a fun fact about the family. I'm Sikh. My wife is Hindu. My daughter's married to a Jewish kid. She works in this building, by the way, at Instagram. And my younger daughter is hanging out with the Catholic kid. So I told them the other day, I said, our grandkids are going to be mongrels. Right? And that's how it's going to be.
Fantastic. What an amazing panel. Thank you all. Greg, sorry, I think you wanted to respond to the question around decency and emotional quotient.
I did. I really just have talked to Ajay about this before and very touched by this sort of the idea of empathy and what it really means, but fundamentally how it actually plays into what we're trying to do, how we're trying to succeed. It's just absolutely fundamental. It can't be something separate, can't be something talked about on the side. It's got to be fundamental. But you're struck by the idea that intent matters. It's hugely important, but conduct and outcomes matter more. conduct and outcomes rule. So you kind of come back to how do you operationalize this? And I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is not just the concept of what we're trying to do to succeed more effectively, but how we do it, how we put the mechanisms in place to make a difference. And in doing so, you build momentum. You build true momentum because it reinforces great outcomes. So I think it's really an add to sort of what Audrey started us off with.
And completely agree. I think it's about deeds, not words. So there's no point having all these amazing values plastered on the wall if they don't actually embody in the behaviors you see in the business. Sally, I was really keen to ask you about your perspective on building inclusive cultures, because obviously you've been in both big established corporates and obviously in a startup. Would love to hear your perspective.
It is so much, everything about a startup is so much harder than a big company, except building a diverse and inclusive culture. Because I find at a startup, the way I did it, as I said, first of all, we looked at the research that said diverse teams outperform by a lot homogenous teams. I said, okay, we're going to do that. And then the way that we did it is I just mandated it. And when we began to hire in a way where we were overweighting one particular type of individual, which human nature has you do, I would just say we're just not hiring again until we hire somebody who brings this kind of perspective to our company. And when you're at a startup and you tell people you can't hire them, wait, we're venture funded, we have outside investors, we're not profitable yet. Yeah, we're going to wait until we can find someone who brings a different perspective to us. It's funny how people will find that individual, fill that slot. In contrast, in big companies, what works against us is success and meritocracy. And so I think back to my days of running Merrill Lynch, the wealth management business there, where making billions and billions of dollars, overwhelmingly the workforce was of one type. And in fact, the brand symbolized that type because the brand symbol is a bull, which is a very masculine symbol, which the workforce loves it so much that when Bank of America took over Merrill and went to one of the offices to take down the bull, there was literally a riot and they ran the Bank of America people out, okay? So this is a culture where it's 80+% male, has been for forever. And then when you go and try to change it, and the signal is it's male, and when you try to change it, you say, okay, branch managers, you should hire a diverse group, and we're a meritocracy, so we're going to let you manage, right? And then middle managers tend to do what they've done, do what's been successful, lean into the culture as opposed to try to change it. And so I love to say diversity outperforms meritocracy because the numbers show that it does. Yeah. But yet we're so bought into meritocracy, let your managers manage. You need to be more diverse, but you also need to hit your sales goals, right? You also need to pass your audits. You also need to. And then the diversity targets in a successful company just slide sideways.
Meritocracy is actually a really frustrating subject actually when it comes to diversity, because there seems to be a really common misconception that when you might be trying to do diversity hiring, it means you're compromising on quality. There seems to be this imaginary bar or benchmark for diverse candidates to reach that perhaps the white man doesn't have to.
Well, and the research tells us it's the exact opposite, that white men are promoted based on potential, yeah, and everyone else is promoted based on achievement. So the bar is actually the other way, which is higher for diverse individuals.
Greg, do you have any comments on meritocratic kind of cultures? And
this is so fundamental, this whole idea of really what we're trying to get accomplished and the what to do and the how to do. And again, when we reflect in Aon, my colleagues, we've made progress. We have a long way to go. We know that. But we make progress on the how to, not the what to. Yeah. The how to, we spend so much time talking about the what to. What's different? What's this? The analytics. What should happen? The how to is when we made progress. The how to is we were doing diverse slates for a long time and failing at those. It wasn't until we had diverse panels evaluating diverse slates that mattered. It wasn't until we essentially said, listen, if we don't actually have the diverse slate and a diverse panel, we don't hire. We go outside. We don't have that perfect yet either, but that's a how-to that makes a huge difference. There are how-tos in terms of how you think about where you're going to put your priorities and where you're going to actually evaluate colleagues and how that fits into the overall equation. So Suki, for us, it's really been about the how-to is where we've seen differences, where we make investments, investments sort of in our business resource groups and how we play those out over time, how they interact, how they're fundamental to our business, that makes a huge difference. So it just would reflect a lesson from Aon anyway, is a lot of the effort around the how-to makes as much difference as sort of the what we're trying to get done.
It's that kind of purposeful and proactive approach which you have to take with diversity and inclusion.
Completely.
Joy, I'd love to talk to you about, because you're a leader that's very passionate about giving a second chance to people, particularly with the kind of philosophy of dress for success. But not everyone wants to give people a second chance. There might be a misstep in their past which prevents them from going forward. I'd love to hear your perspective on how you change people's attitudes and mindsets about second chances.
Well, I think you start with being invited to a panel of such distinguished leaders in the workspace of diversity and inclusion, and Sally is someone who has supported Dress for Success time and time again, so it's an honor. I also just want you to know that the work of Dress for Success is more about making sure that women not only land jobs but keep jobs. But we also have to make sure that the employers understand that the women who come through Dress for Success, not all, but many, haven't taken a straight line into success. In fact, sometimes it's a dotted line and sometimes it's a checkered line. And so understanding that and respecting the fact that she comes with a past and that she is entitled to a second chance in life, we all are, and that if given her a second opportunity to succeed, she will sometimes outperform someone who's come through a direct path in life with no hurdles, no obstacles. And so what we love at Dress for Success is really seeing women for who they are, giving them the confidence and self-worth they need so that they can look in the mirror and see the woman they've always wanted to be, and letting them know that there are employers out there that are willing to invest in them. And so sometimes when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we talk about it through one lens, that lens being ethnicity or religion or sexual identification. But what I want and what I challenge you to do is when you think about diversity, think about diverse communities of people who may not have worked in traditional work jobs, but if given the opportunity to start at an entry-level position in your company, they can aspire to grow beyond your wildest and their wildest potential. And so what it is really is about investing in a new talent portfolio. And as the unemployment numbers continue to drop and jobs are at an all-time high, you have to see talent differently. And that's what it's about. It's really how you see talent through a lens of understanding that women, especially single moms, need to work. And they need to work in an environment that is inclusive of the fact that it has to be a flexible, sometimes, work environment for her. And it also has to be an environment in which she's around groups of people who are cheering her on and mentoring and sponsorship groups within an organization that allow her to soar, to go back to school, to get her degree, to see her child get her degree. And sometimes her success is her child's success. And so how you define diversity and inclusion has to be bigger than what I think we all have been thinking about diversity and inclusion over the years.
I just have to add one piece on this because I think it's so compelling, Joy. There's a view that you make an investment. You're doing a good thing. You're making an investment. And I know you would say, yeah, that's true, but it's not the complete story. The complete story is you benefit as a firm.
Absolutely.
Massively. And I think there's a great example that we've been working on around the world around an apprenticeship program. So think about this, city colleges in Chicago, 80,000 students, 80,000. Graduation rate, 17%. Think about that. These folks are borrowing money to make their life better. We actually never interviewed any of them, ever. They never came to Aon. They never knew what Aon was. They never had the opportunity. We actually had to modify sort of the entry program because our mindset was it had to be a college graduate.
Right.
And we were wrong. Now, we thought we were doing a good thing. We found out we were doing a lot more than that. These folks came in, they've apprenticed, engagement, 100%, retention, 100%, excellent job, wonderful work. And we have a network of companies in Chicago and now New York. If we can put 1,000 or 2,000 apprentices sort of to work every year over the course of a decade, it makes a difference. But the punchline, and this is what you're getting to, it's so powerful, is it's not benefiting them, it's benefiting us and benefiting them.
Right.
It's a different order.
But Joy, with the women that you're helping, what are the kind of objections you're getting from companies about not hiring them?
Well, the biggest thing we're finding at Dress for Success with respect to the women that we're serving is as it relates to ageism. And so what we've seen over the last couple years is that our client population is skewing older. And so as she skews older, the people that she's interviewing with are younger than her and don't appreciate the value of having older women in the workplace. And so it's a struggle. It then starts to work on her self-esteem and her self-worth. And then she begins to struggle internally into why and can she ever find employment. And so it's been challenging for us to help change the mindset of corporate America as it relates to hiring women of diverse age groups and in fact, valuing, having the value add to having them in the workplace.
Really interesting point you make, because we actually did a roundtable in New York last year to talk about intergenerational diversity, because it's something that doesn't actually get very much airtime. If you think about the fact that there are 5 generations, one workplace, from your Gen Z through to your baby boomers, there's a big focus on Gen Z and millennials. But actually, like you say, the aging workforce isn't as considered, and we're working longer, we're living longer. Right. Would love to hear, Sally, like your perspective when it comes to intergenerational differences.
Well, look, we work to get diversity of all kinds, and so age is definitely one of them. I always love to say to the team, as a younger woman myself, we need to be reaching through the generations, but you can't possibly serve individuals if they're not represented in your workforce. You just can't do it.
And also, if you think of the bias that exists amongst those generations itself, from millennials, for instance, that don't want to identify as millennials because of the negative stereotypes that exist against us. And I'm a millennial, by the way. It was really interesting having that conversation. RJ, I would like to ask you and pivot towards and get your perspective on whether you think quotas or targets work when it comes to driving representation. Because at the moment in the US, California is the only state that has a legal quota for women on boards.
So I did one step before that. I want to make sure you remember when I started, I said diversity matters more across having people around you who don't look like you, walk like you, talk like you. That's what we were just discussing. Yeah. The moment you get into this habit of defining diversity from your lens, you will fill that lens and leave the other ones. And unfortunately, for the person in the other lens, they just lost out, and to your diversity concept didn't matter to them. So when I grew up in India, diversity was not the same as it's defined here. African American diversity didn't matter in India. Religious diversity you took for granted those days. Nowadays you don't. You did then. Diversity to me was actually the female angle only. That's what it meant. Yeah. But you come here and it's a wider definition. You go to Brazil and it's a different definition. So I think the way to unite people on diversity is not to define it in your lens, but to define it in the concept of surrounding yourself with people who are different from you. In every way, in age, in look, in education, in background, where they grew up, what their circumstances are, how they dress, what their experiences in life were. You got to do that. Now with quotas, a little different issue. I think there are some specific spaces where diversity is crying out to be addressed. If 50% of the population is underrepresented everywhere, in every aspect, and yet in companies like ours, 70% of purchasing decisions are made by women. And therefore, having employees and board members who don't represent the way that people think who are buying is a stupid thing to do long term. Now, can you bring that up by just talking about it, or do you need to do something specific about it? I believe that setting targets and quotas makes sense there. The challenge is not to just be a slave to the target. So let's say you say every slate is going to have a female. Great. Nobody hires them. So I used to send people to Columbia School of Engineering to hire female engineers. And there were women being sent along with men. They would come back with men. Then I sent them to Smith College of Engineering because there are only women there. They can't hire men. It's a quota done differently. So you've got to be intelligent about quotas. Quotas are not an end in itself because people become slaves to them and tick the box. You've got to get to why you're trying to get there, which is the target is to get 50% plus representation of women in every level you could. Now, it's hard. We're not there ourselves. But that's the idea, right? As compared to just a blind quota.
Sorry, I thought you were going to... Did you want to say?
We're there.
But I want to say that people of color don't want to be part of the quota, right?
So my
exactly.
Point,
so that's your point is perfect because we don't want to be seen as part of a quota, right?
Anybody. I want to be in my job because I deserve it. But the quota can help. Wait.
We bought into the patriarchy, right? Yeah, Which is
I don't agree. Hey,
diversity. I got it.
So it doesn't work with me.
But I'd say when people say I don't want to be part of the quota, it's because we've been socialized that means that we, the bar is lower for us.
Absolutely.
We were part of a special program.
No,
That's what.
No.
I want to be valued. I
Correct.
want to be seen as an asset.
That's all we're
Right.
saying.
Exactly. That's what I want to be seen.
So what I'm trying to get at is we went from having one lady on the board when I joined to now 4 of our board members are women. But tell you what, they're outstanding women, and every one of them could beat any of the men on my board, hands down. And I believe that with passion. And I will get it to 5 and 6 when I get to filling the right skill gap and finding the right person. And I will look this lady in the eye and look men in the eye and look all my employees in the eye and repeat this in public, which I do, saying, you got your job because you deserve it. Now, I will give you a level playing field. That is my real task. My task is to take away the barrier in your way caused by these conceptions or misconceptions that Sally is referring to. My task is not to lift you so that you somehow get there. My task is to remove the barrier. I tell you, diverse people win. Just give them a flat playing field.
And we're also working to remove the barriers at Ellevest, not just by building a diverse and inclusive company, but through our company mission. And our company mission is to get more money in the hands of women. And so what's a reason women, may have to accept a job, stay in a job where she's not getting promoted, people who she's outperforming are getting promoted around her? She didn't have enough money to leave. And we talk a lot as a society about, women make 82 cents to a man's dollar. That's not good, right? Much less for women of color. That's even worse. What we really don't talk much about is the wealth gap, where women have 32 cents to a man's dollar. And if you only have 32 cents to a man's dollar, when that job starts to go wrong, you may not have any other options. And, I think we would all agree that we actually wouldn't be in this Me Too Time's Up moment if women had as much money as men do. Yeah. And so I think it behooves, some group of us, not just to build companies that do the right thing here, but to have as a mission, equality and getting more money in the hands of more women.
But I think corporates or business are very good at getting better at collecting data and responding to numbers. So that's why targets, I think, are sometimes quite powerful in driving it. For example,
in our company, women of color get paid more than women who are not of color, who are white. Just to be clear. Wow. But I didn't do it to the quota. Yeah. That's the point I'm making. Yeah. I did it with the respect for the person there who deserves to get what they get paid. And I really think it's important for people discussing diversity to take this to heart. If you really want to do it the right way, do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And that's because they deserve it.
But I think an example of, for instance, David Solomon a few weeks ago at Goldman Sachs very publicly declared that he would not be doing any IPOs of companies that have no diversity on the board. And actually, it was through a lens of gender. That's the only thing that disappointed me. It was focused on women, because I was thinking, what about the other demographics? So the voice of a CEO is an incredibly powerful one. And obviously, that was global news. It was everywhere. You're all CEOs. I'd love to hear examples of where you might have been the outlier in the room when it comes to an opinion or a topic. I don't know who would be willing to... Sally?
Like every day?
Yeah, because I think
part of what we have to do at Ellevest, when we think about the messages that we've received as women, the patriarchal messages, some of it is that we're not good with money. We're not that good at investing. We want to invest, but we need more financial education. Advice to us around money, rather than generate alpha, buy low, sell high, tends to be don't buy the latte. Right? Invest the money instead. Don't have the facial. Don't buy the shoes. So today in our society, when we talk to men about money, what comes to mind for them is strength and power and independence. For women, it's loneliness, isolation, and inadequacy. And so part of what we are doing at Ellevest is not just building the company, trying to get... We actually are trying to hit at these sort of societal underpinnings where we tend to think, we would never really phrase it this way, we tend to think money is for men.
Well, great, actually. I've got a question for you specifically, actually, around... You've spoken about the importance of authenticity and backing words with action, such as the work with the PGA, for instance. So, it would be great, actually, for you to share more about that and how you brought it to life.
Well, I would... And it's really Aon who brought it to life. But I think, look, we're arguing a thesis. Does diversity win? Yes or no? We keep saying yes. We're not acting yes. This is back to the conduct and the outcome. Period. So why is that? What are the barriers that are in the way of that? By the way, if it really does win, All of us are about trying to win strategically. Why? Why aren't we making progress? So at Aon, again, we're not perfect by any stretch. We're trying to take steps. I will tell you, taking some of the risks and celebrating the positives as opposed to remediating the negatives has been super powerful for us. And the PGA was a conversation, and the LPGA was a conversation. So we created something called the Aon Risk Reward Challenge. No great shakes, but essentially golf, which is essentially the piece. And essentially it's a year-long effort in which you take the hardest hole in every tournament, and you sort of accumulate it through the year. And it basically is around data and analytics, and it's basically around the advice with the caddy and a whole bit. It doesn't really matter all the mechanics of it. It is a year-long, brand new thing, and we did it with the PGA. $1 million prize, really cool. Mechanics all laid down. And then we went to the LPGA. I went to the LPGA and said, listen, we're doing something with the PGA. We want to do it with the LPGA. They were so pumped about it. Great. There one criteria, got to be exact same program, exact same prize money. Oh my God, what? And by the way, and this was a celebration on doing, we thought, the right thing. Now, I will tell you, again, we did not anticipate the reaction. It's been overwhelming, and I don't credit Aon with that. I credit with we took the right step, celebrated inside of Aon. We were excited about it. My colleagues were excited about it, but it blew us away. So I think part of this is if you believe the thesis, which we do, live the thesis and the reinforcement of it. By the way, wealth creation movement will be a reinforcement of that thesis when that works. That's what we've got to see. Success is going to drive momentum. The talk doesn't drive momentum. Success drives momentum. And I'll tell you, this PGA, LPGA thing just blew us away. And there was some uncertainty going in. By the way, on both tours, everyone was uncertain. But in the end, the outcome was so obvious, so straightforward, and frankly, so powerful. It was kind of really cool.
And I assume they did get equal prize winnings.
Oh, of course.
Checking.
So the same program, $1 million each. And I will tell you, the LPGA, back to kind of just the content, the LPGA, these athletes really want to build something. And so even the interaction with our clients was it was awesome on the PGA. I just want to say, absolutely awesome with our PGA partners. But the LPGA was different. We unlocked something. They were builders of something. The tour players on the LPGA want to build something great, and they're actively involved in a way that we didn't see anywhere else. And that outcome, Suki, was phenomenal. And it was really the unleashing. If you really listen to them talk about even the prize in the end, it wasn't the money, it was the symbol. And it literally is two pros getting the exact same result. So it was kind of cool.
Fantastic. So one of the biggest initiatives that we have in Involve are our role model lists, which are published by Yahoo Finance, which we're really proud to have them as our media partner because we reach millions of people globally. RJ was our #1 executive for the Empower list last year, and Greg, you featured as an ally in the Outstanding list, for instance. And we have a number of our role models in the room tonight, which we're really excited about. This morning, sorry. Sorry, jet lag. So we'd all love to hear actually who your personal role models are in business and who you look up to and why. RJ, should we start with you?
People who work for me. I'll tell you why. This whole decency discussion has got them going. I was just listening to Greg. We launched a true name card for transgender people, and it's never happened. So when you go and you change your gender and you go and your name is still what the original name was, people stare at you strangely in shops and in locations. Being able to issue a card which represents your true name, your new name, is actually quite difficult to do.
Fantastic.
Turns out our employees got it done. I had no clue they were working on it. They came to me 2 days before the launch and said, we've got a masterful idea. We've spent the last 3 months working on it. We're ready to go. Obviously, you're going to like it. Thank you very much. And they walked out. And it was the best thing we did. And why I'm repeating this is I think unlocking the power of companies to do what Greg's doing or Sally's doing or you're doing with Dress for Success, what we're doing is taking our people and our capital and our ingenuity and applying it not just to our employees, but to changing the world we operate in, to a little bit at a time. So it's the employees. If you empower them, they will do it. You just have to not be the one with all the bright ideas.
Yeah, brilliant. Sally, your role model.
I'm not saying this because he's next to me, but Ajay is absolutely one of them. I had the privilege of working with Ajay at Citi.
We had a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun, and then we didn't have some fun. Yes. But he always led with that decency, with integrity, with his heart, with an open mind, with great energy. And we're really proud to have MasterCard and Ajay as investors in Ellevest. And what we tried to do at Ellevest is throughout our business, really, our investors are diverse, our company is diverse, we're helping women invest. And so individuals like Ajay. We also have PayPal as an investor, Salesforce as an investor, companies that have publicly taken action and closed their
Sports
gender pay
stars. You've
gap.
got a bunch. You've got a great.
Oh yeah, no, we've got a great investor list, but it started with who do we want to partner with, not where can we get the money from, but who do we want to partner with, and MasterCard was absolutely one of them.
Fantastic.
By the way, when Sally first came, told me what she was up to in this new place, she came with a little 5-page deck, and the 3 things that stuck out: 1, women are denied control of assets; 2, they live longer and therefore need to worry about their money for longer; 3, nobody designs investment products for the way they think. And those 3, that combination of 3 is very powerful to address a big issue, which is how do you make them more secure and comfortable with what they're doing.
So it's like
That's why I'm such a big admirer.
Fantastic. Joy.
Well, not to mirror what Sally said, but RJ, I have followed you for a long time, and just listening to your speeches and understanding kind of your workplace and your ethical behavior and what you stand for is what anyone in the nonprofit space would want to have as a leader in corporate America, because you are the ones, and both of you are, the ones who open doors for others to come through and get a much better way in the workplace. I admire and respect leaders who are willing to give people that second chance, especially people who come from a place of being an ex-offender. And so the corporations now who have released the barrier for letting ex-offenders back into the workplace, giving them the second chance, because when you employ a man and a woman who's come out of the criminal justice system, who have children, who are role models for their children, and you give them opportunities to work, and then their children see their parents working, you can, in essence, break the cycle of poverty and criminality. And so as someone, I actually practiced law before coming into the nonprofit space. And so I have a passion for giving people second chances. I did when I was even an assistant district attorney, but I do so more now because I see if given a second chance and an opportunity and a window for success, anyone can succeed. And so corporations like Aon and MasterCard are just true examples of corporations willing to give people that second chance, and I applaud you.
Thank you, Joy.
You're my new heroes.
Greg, you're a role model, and you're not allowed to say RJ.
How can I? It's three. We raised her show of hands, Ajay. Yeah, good. Fantastic. All good. Seriously, this panel is incredible. Sally, hearing what you're doing is really amazing. And I've read about it, but hear you talk about it is very different. So amazing, Joy, what you're doing, fantastic. I do come back to my colleagues. They do things, they drive things at our firm, which makes a huge difference. And some are sitting out here, and I thank you for that. You've been inspiring. You've also held the bar up to help us understand we're not making enough progress, and not even close. And so, to me, that level of, in essence, back to, it's like strategy. We all bend over backwards to try to win sustainable competitive advantage. We're all trying to do that. How much are we innovating on this topic? How much are we changing on this topic? And that source of inspiration for me anyway comes a lot from watching my colleagues do what they do every day.
Thank you, Greg. We're coming almost to the end of the panel conversation, so please do have your questions ready. I thought it'd be really good just as a final takeaway from you all, because I'm sure the audience would love to hear about your practical advice and tips for driving inclusion in business, as to what one thing that they could all do when they go back to their companies later today that could make a difference. Greg, can we start with you?
Sure. Listen, I still come back to this idea, this theme around what and how. And again, intent is beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. Can't do anything if you don't start with intent. But conduct and outcomes rule. Conduct and outcomes rule. So I go back, find one thing, one opportunity you can create. And I love the idea, level the playing field, which is you're creating. Yeah, you're not leveling. You're creating opportunity, and live that example every day. It will matter across your firm, and it will build on itself.
Joy.
I say be the change you want to see in the world. So go back to your communities, go back to your jobs, go back to your home environment, and make a difference in one person's life. The ripple effect of that will transform that person's life and the next person and the next person. It's your responsibility. It's all of our responsibilities to help someone else succeed.
I'm gonna instead of talking to managers and leaders, I'm gonna talk to women. I'm gonna tell you something very few people will ever say. In an era of know your worth, take the seat at the table, you go girl, you got this. You know, if you didn't get the raise this time, you didn't read the book closely enough, you better underline it, you better notate it, go back in there, you know, because we all got A's in school, right? It's just a matter of working harder. What I would say is sometimes it's not you. Sometimes you work for a Todd. And a Todd is a wonderful person. Everybody wants him or her on their foursome. He or she went to unconscious bias training class, you know, talks about how they're woke, but just never seems to promote anybody but someone who looks like themselves. And it takes a while to figure out that they're a Todd because they only have a couple of promotions a year. They only hire a couple of people a year. And so, look, when they promote Stuart over you, so be it. When they promote James over you, so be it. Chad, you know, by the fourth or fifth time, no book will tell you this. It's not you, it's him. Now, how do you get out of there? I would say you invest, right? That you take care of your finances at home. You make sure you're building up that cushion that you can. So you've got the get the hell out of the job that's not working for me money, which happens to be, by the way, also leave the relationship, I don't like money, and at the same time, take your friggin' hand off my leg money. Top that.
Now
Come
you
on,
know.
Ajay, top that.
Now you know why we still have so much fun together. I have vivid memories of conversations like this.
And the thing is, we all know those annoying Tods. It's so
Right?
funny. We do.
Right?
So many annoying Tods. Anyway.
And by the way, she's being polite right now. So the real Sally will come out too.
RJ, your tip for the
I would
audience.
just tell you, go back with your interpretation of DQ, whatever it is for you, in your environment, your family, your colleagues, your company, your interpretation of decency quotient. Go live it. Just live it for yourself. Make a difference to one person's life with that, just one. And if you have 200 people here, that's 200 people you benefited. Just go back and do that.
Agreed. Fantastic. So, questions. Who's going to be the brave person that asked the first one? There's a few microphone just there.
Hello, thank you. This was really invigorating, great way to start the morning in the rain. So we talked a lot about diversity and getting the right people in. And I think one of the challenges we face is once we have those right people in, how do you feel comfortable? You know, we have managers who may not have had the opportunity to work or even have diverse people in their network. And so all of a sudden you're bringing two people together who may not have anything in common. And I think in the workforce, part of that camaraderie that we develop isn't necessarily there when you put two people together who are so different. So how do we get them on that common ground so that you feel comfortable? So Todd isn't going back to, this is who I know, this is who I like, despite the unconscious bias training, despite coming to panels, despite believing in it, but just that innate, I feel comfortable with someone like me.
Great question. Greg.
Not a perfect answer here, but listen, again, just based on Aon experience, this is a led outcome. This is a managed outcome. This does not happen organically. If you don't take specific initiatives to sort of do exactly what you're describing, both in the connectivity of leaders, how is it going to happen organically? People didn't know what they didn't know. They have to learn. They have to be exposed. Then they have to act. If they don't, they have other consequences. The other piece is analytics matter here too. Ajay described it a little bit. You know, analytics around pay equity, but not just around the diagnostics and the audit of pay equity. We do a lot of work with clients around pay equity. And the diagnostics is one thing, but it really is how you manage over time, how you actually explicitly are asked to address and understand performance and opportunity. And the last piece I would just highlight is back to the led outcome. The apprenticeship is different for different individuals. They come from different backgrounds. And so not only do we have to understand how we work together, we have to have different apprenticeships, different development for colleagues of different backgrounds. Our apprentices, when they come in, had never actually walked in an office before. When we actually gave them the training on what to expect, which, by the way, they're like, really? That's what you do there? What the heck? They were awesome, but you had to have that apprenticeship that was different. So all those things are led outcomes. They're not organic.
I think a lot of this actually is about building empathy. And actually, if you think about the way the gender movement has progressed, is because a lot of the straight white men that are in the positions of power and influence have daughters. They have daughters that are tapping them on the shoulder and telling them their experiences of the workplace, which is making them take action. But when you compare that with people of color or LGBT, if there is already a lack of representation at the top, they're not exposed to those stories of people that are very different to them. So it's a really valid point that you make, and I think storytelling is really important. Another question? The microphone's just there. Yeah, if you wanted to form a queue, would be great, because then we'll know how excited you all are to ask this panel question. So please do form a line.
So I am the U.S. D&I chair at Aon, and one of the things that I worry about is while we can do a lot around recruiting, and Greg talked about diverse panels and having a diverse pool, for me, the concern is the retention and the advancement of diverse colleagues. So if you can talk about what do you practically do to sort of enforce the retention and advancement of the diverse colleagues?
RJ?
So take, for example, women. One of the biggest problems is not the recruitment rate, that we get actually 50+% women coming in. The challenge is at the age of 35 or so, we get dropouts for all kinds of reasons that are to do with role definition of old ways of thinking and to do with biology. That's just the reality. So what we've tried to do is to create ways for them to come back to work through what we call a return to work program, where we actually don't sort of let part company with anyone. Or even if you weren't in our company, but you've had a child and you want to come back to work, we'll get you back a half a day a week, and then 2 half days a week, then 3 half days a week, then 2 full days and 1 half day. We allow you to bring your pace back to work over the course of 2 and 3 years, so that 1, you get your confidence back about what you're doing, 2, you ease yourself back in and you manage your way through it. That's an example. Another one is paid parental leave. Today at MasterCard, every woman gets 16 weeks off paid leave, including bonus, no pro rata, the bonus for the year. Every man currently gets 8 weeks because I can't figure my way through the Disability Act definition, which defines pregnancy as a disability. So therefore, the women get 8 weeks of regular leave and 8 weeks through disability. I think this is a crazy system. If I give men 16, I would have women saying, you're giving men 16 and me 8. It's not true. It's because of the idiocy of maternity being defined as disability. So I'm going to get to 16 weeks of paid leave for both parents, because I think that's what allows you to create the right infrastructure to encourage people to come back. Yes, you got to give them flexible hours, the obvious stuff, but you got to create the method that Greg said. You got to create a process, a directed method to bring them back.
Yeah, I just sort of build on that a little bit, because that first child is also where the gender pay gap starts to kick into place, and the gender wealth gap starts to really kick into place. So let's, first of all, call a spade a spade. It is uneffing believable to me that as the richest country in the history of the world, we don't have mandated paid parental leave. It is outrageous. It is further outrageous because the research tells you that paid family leave pays for itself within a year. That if one is able to take that time with the family early on, then one is more likely to come back to work. So that's number one. It is outrageous and crazy, and we can think of, yes, okay, fine, there's an expense to it. I would say, given the return on it, it's an investment, and it doesn't actually have to cost that much. So that's number one. Number two, what we did at Ellevest, similar to where Ajay's going, is we're, as a startup, 12 weeks paid leave, primary, non-primary caregiver. Because what we found, I know, and again, sort of expensive given that we're, a startup, but what we found, if we're going to live by our values, that we didn't want to be a company all for, the mission of getting more money in the hands of women, and then we've got a mommy track, right? And so we, today, my co-founder's wife is just about to have a baby, so he's taking family leave. Our CTO, who's a male, took family leave, as has our chief product officer, our head of
Are you leading up to some personal news, or what are we getting at?
Honey, that ship has sailed. I don't even know how to go on after that.
Let me just say one thing. I know. How do you go from there? Let me say one thing. In the nonprofit space, what we are doing for our client population is we are not only doing workforce development, helping people land jobs, we're doing further development, making sure people keep their jobs. And so we're creating professional, in Dress for Success, we have a professional women's group so that when a woman comes through our program, lands a job, she then goes into a professional women's group program. And so monthly, she goes to workshops and hears from speakers, women like you and others in the room. And so she is getting mentoring and guidance so that when there are difficult things that happen in the workplace, she has a support network and a peer group of people who are going to help her overcome her obstacles. Sometimes her biggest obstacle is herself. Yeah. And so the nonprofit community is not only trying to help people land jobs, but we're really trying to make sure that people remain employed. And so partnering with nonprofit organizations, community colleges that are focused on professional development is a key to making sure that you keep those people in the workplace.
I actually also think the induction and the first 100 days for whoever starts the company is critical to get right, because it kind of sets the tone for their career. So if they have a really bad experience, they're starting from a very low starting point, which kind of questions their psychological contract with that company as well. Next question.
I lead an organization and may have some Todds working for me who, despite best efforts in terms of a framework and norms and different policies that we're putting into place and trainings, I cannot necessarily dictate the people they decide to hire. So my question actually has to do with those stars at the entry level, mid-level, that I'd like to see move forward if they've got that potential and that ambition. I'd like to remove whatever barriers are there. I'd like to pay a little extra attention to them without favoritism or the appearance of favoritism. And my question is, how do you approach that perception that you've sort of anointed or are sponsoring someone that you're trying to pull them up without creating rancor or feelings of resentment from the others who are not, say, chosen by the leader for that special attention?
Sally?
I just do it. But see, this is the great part about being in a startup, which is that when you grow quickly, there are terrific opportunities for folks. So that, you know, those who are the stars can rapidly increase their scope.
But to be fair, you have a valid point in the fact that a lot of straight white men do feel like they're being left behind. And you had that news story a few years ago with the Google memo from the straight white guy, who I think ultimately got fired in the end for his comments around diversity taking over business. But it is about being proactive and purposeful in deciding that you're trying to effectively level the playing field, is what you're doing, which is kind of related to your decency quotient.
How large is your organization? 200. Look, at the end of the day, forget the conversation we're having now. If I said we were doing something, sorry, where did you sit down? Oh, there, sorry. If you're doing something in your organization that's actually hurting your organization, not allowing you to win, not allowing you to succeed, it's proven that you should succeed if you took these other steps. Would you stop doing it? Yes, you would. Well, why is it not the case here? It's not. We don't have transparency. We don't have understanding. We don't have data and analytics, so we can have a real conversation around progression. By the way, if you understood you had a star at the front end, and you wanted to create opportunity, you know what the opportunities were, and you had an active, open conversation, you would actually create movement. And so part of this is back to the fundamentals. This is again, we don't have it right, but when we make progress, it's because we have real facts, understanding, and candid conversations with transparency against an objective called succeeding. And the beauty of that is diversity equals success. You kind of come back to that core thesis that essentially we're all dancing around. So fundamentally, again, happy to compare notes on sort of here's some of the transparent pieces, things we've done that have really made it really difficult. And I had not heard the definition of Todd before. I will take that away carefully. It makes it difficult for that person to essentially continue to take actions that you know are going to sub-optimize. That fundamentally can't happen if we're going to succeed in what we do. So how do you create the action, the transparency to do that? Just a thought. That's where we've made some progress.
And there is actually some research that Accenture did called When She Rises, We All Rise. So actually specifically designed to let Todd know that actually he will be just as successful if women are also promoted in the business. Final question.
Well, thank you for spending the morning here with us. I think this is a great way to kick it off, and these are really relevant discussions. So diversity and inclusion, everybody's talking about it now. It's probably more talked about than anything, and we're in an interesting time in history. My question to you is, and it ties back a little bit to that question, how do you help women not feel like, not develop the imposter syndrome, or not feel like, well, they're getting promoted or they're getting recognized because they're filling a quota, and also the backlash you do get from peers saying, well, she got the job because she's a woman. And then on the flip side, because the world's listening, how would you suggest managers deal with that? Because you also get the flip side of it is, oh, well, you're promoting her because she's a woman, or you're paying special attention to her, or it could be a him as well, depending on the type of diversity we're talking about.
Thank you. Great question. Joy?
Well, I mean, we work with the imposter syndrome all the time because women who come to Dress for Success feel like no one's going to give them a second chance in life. And so what we do is we build self-confidence and self-worth. And that's what we work on. We undress the issues that are facing her. And so we like to say that we don't dress her from the outside, we dress her from the inside. And once you can fix what's going on inside, that whole imposter syndrome, I'm not worthy, I shouldn't receive this, I'm only getting this because of ... then you break down that barrier that she sets up for herself, and so that she feels confident, she feels worthy, she feels accomplished, she's determined, and she's out the gate ready to succeed. And that's what we're trying to do at our organization.
Great, thank you. Sally?
So I had an interesting insight into this a couple of months ago, because if you'd asked me about imposter syndrome, it probably won't shock this group to hear it. I've never had it. Never had it before, and just sort of figured I'm as smart as the guys are. I'm as smart as the people who are one level ahead, and I am. And would just think I can just work hard. If it's just a matter of working hard, I can do that. And I've reframed it for myself. Our head of people ops framed it for me: growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And if we shift it from imposter syndrome to having that growth mindset, that you're not fixed from the time of birth, you can shift and change and increase your strengths, as opposed to I am who I am, and shift it that way, then I think we can help anybody overcome that imposter syndrome through work and growth.
Fantastic. I think this now brings the event to an end. Can we just please give the panelists a huge, huge round of applause? And a big, big thank you to Yahoo Finance for hosting us today. And a big thank you to all those joining us on our live stream, because we're about to close that now. So thank you for joining us online. Awkward silence.